Hello and welcome to the New World Review, where I'm gonna get all psychological on your butts because I have noticed things and now I have to share them with you. This is the Hunter x Hunter episode where I actually use character names rather than metaphorical versions of them and make links to things they've done in the past because I have thoughts and feelings and they will not be halted and there are a lot of things to talk about. So let's get into episodes 70 and 71. Episode 70, and we've decided that we have a really good plan, a really important plan, the plan to end all plans, and of course it's Gon's plan. Because whenever Gon comes up with a plan, we can guarantee it will be simple. Really simple. Because Gon's really simple. Not a simpleton, not stupid, but simple. He takes complex concepts and simplifies them down to their base parts. In this case, the ultimate question, which is, who is stronger? So we just need to smack the ball really hard. Or at least, that's the case to Gon, right? And Killua's there with broken and busted fingers, and these two kids know that what they're doing is basically killing each other slowly, but hey, because I believe in you, you're the only one that can do this. I want to say that was a really heartfelt and beautiful moment, and you know what? It was heartfelt and beautiful, and I loved it because it showed how much their symbiotic relationship bond is growing and how quickly it's doing so. If I'm entirely honest, there were a few tears on Waifu's face when I saw Killua's reaction to Gon, knowing Killua was hurt, but deciding to use him anyway, because he's the only one Gon trusts to hold that dodgeball. And yeah, there's a but. Because if Sagera's didn't say anything, if everyone had just assumed Gon could and would do the thing again, that Killua could do the thing again, would Gon have ever said anything about Killua's hands? Would he have just used Killua to get what he wanted without the pep talk? I want to say yes, I want to believe that they have a really deep and meaningful and heartfelt relationship that's based on more than just being used, but I really don't think Gon would have said anything, and I don't think he'd have ever said anything beyond it. Killua hid how hurt he was. He thought he was hiding from Gon. Gon knew the damage he'd done, so the balance there is upset, right? One of them innately holds power over the other. Gon is, as I discussed in an earlier episode, the primary, Killua the secondary. Killua will do anything for Gon, and Gon has already said that he wouldn't sacrifice anything, or everything, I suppose, for Killua. He's already said he wouldn't, and Killua's already accepted it because, frankly, Killua's strength, his physical strength, that is, his mental strength, that is debatable whether he even has mental strength or a great deal of mental strength and mental resilience, but anyway, that strength has come from being tortured by those he's supposed to be able to trust and turn to for care, which is his family. Killua perceives Gon's active decision to harm him as love, because that's the only experience he's ever had of love, and Killua, why? I'm sure we'll go back to his family and his parents eventually, but if you're tortured so intensely that your aura can become electricity at an age that concerns people who are much, much more experienced than you, maybe you're not a prodigy. Prodigy? Maybe you're not a prodigy. Maybe you're just a really tortured kid and another kid is taking advantage of you. And the more I think about this, the more I don't like it because of the implications it has on the rest of the series so far. Gon questioned who he would sacrifice in a binary situation way before even taking the exam. Then he met Killua, realized how much potential he has, and we know how much he adores and can pick out potential since we saw and headhunted Zephyr, which was a huge point of passion for him. Anyway, he met Killua, but at the last moment, Killua gets scared off the exam by his brother and goes home. Gon doesn't like to leave potential untapped. I have to believe that he does genuinely and deeply care for Killua, so he goes to Killua's home to get him to return to the world and fulfill his potential. But in doing that, he tied Killua to him. Killua would have gone back to his life and done something else. It would have sucked, but Gon following him home to get him back out into the world changed his life forever. Every time Gon reaffirms his care for Killua, Killua has a huge emotional heart-eyes reaction. That reaction is what I'm reacting to as an audience member, but Gon has Killua wrapped up really neatly because Gon has also been requesting more and more of Killua, and the major reasons Gon reaffirmed that Killua had to be the one to hold the ball is because A, they do in fact have probably a good synchronicity, but B, and probably more important B, it's a good opportunity to say, I really care about you and I believe you're the only one who can do this thing where you might never be able to use your hands again, but thank you. The art-shifting form is a beautiful and huge indication of Gon deciding to be serious about the situation, but the romantic softness of Killua's responses to Gon's seriousness makes me really sorry for Killua. The one who I'd argue is the more tender and actually childlike and moral of the two. Definitely we're seeing more art of Gon's musculature developing than we're seeing of Killua, who remains the fashionista and more gentle. Definitely the more thoughtful. We spend more time in his mind than we do in Gon's if we think about it, and now that I do think about it, I'm not entirely sure we've spent any time in Gon's mind. I do wonder why that is, and I will continue to wonder about that, actually. I'll be honest, I didn't start out intending to detail the potentially abusive relationship between two kids, but hey, this is where we are now. And then we add Hisoka and everything is even more messy, am I right? Talking about the episode in general, Bisky being out due to clothing is absurd. And in terms of this dodgeball game overall, I'm getting grumpy with the rules being shifted or revealed only after they're broken. It seems unfair given how many rule sets we've been explained at length to now that they just wouldn't be given rules. Like, everything's been explained. It just seems unfair, you know? Overall, it's good energy. It's fun to be tense. Gon wants a full victory in true Gon fashion, and I don't see why that wouldn't happen ultimately, especially now that Killua's pepped up. I don't think Killua could have done it at all without Gon's pep talk, so let's see what happens now. My final note will be read word for word before we move on to the next episode, because this is literally what I wrote as I watched the end of the episode. Gon and Killua share a strong bond of trust, and Hisoka has a strong bond with their butts. Yes, I legitimately wrote that. Anyway, episode 71. Okay, so I wasn't far off with Gon, Killua's, and Hisoka's bonds. Gon used everything else he had on Razor and passed out, so Hisoka did what any loving schwinger would do and helped Gon get to his full win. Now, I have questions about Hisoka's motivations here. Hisoka notably focused rather than finding Razor's strength thrilling in his own way. Why is that? Hisoka's apparently more discerning than I thought he was, and while that could have just been because it streamlined the story for him not to get all schwingy with Razor's power, it's interesting that Hisoka's sexual interest in power wasn't deemed important enough for this moment. What a writer leaves out of a narrative is sometimes more interesting and important than what they leave in. So what do we learn from Hisoka's response to Razor? It was fascinating to see that Hisoka actually gave Gon his win while sacrificing his own health and verbally declaring that he was doing it for Gon without Gon even able to see what was happening. This is the first time we've seen Hisoka do something in absence of selfishness, and I'm not sure what that means for the character. It showed for sure that all three of the people on the court at that point could handle the amount of power thrown at them, but the fact that he did it selflessly to give Gon a win he thought Gon deserved showed a level of sportsmanship that we really haven't seen since the Hunter exam, when he made sure Gon got to keep his win after procuring Hisoka's tag. We know, or knew, or I knew anyway, that Hisoka is all about power. He's sexually interested in it, but the extent to which he goes for Gon's benefit is something more. It's as though he genuinely cares about Gon's well-being as it pertains to his growth as a combatant, and there's something really endearing and nice about that. Nice on a wholesome level, which isn't really something I'd ever say about Hisky of all people. The idea that Hisky has redeeming features, and that as Bisky notes, he lies because he lies, not for any particular reason, which is, in retrospect, actually only half accurate. That he has those redeeming features at all excites me, because what else has or would he do to keep these kids safe? What would he do for others? Of course, there's a selfishness to it. He wants Gon to reach the fullest potential he can so he can compare his own ability to Gon's. But there has to be a time coming where Gon will in fact outmaneuver him. The power generated into that ball was all Gon's. Razor rebounding it didn't cut down the energy enough. It managed to break Hisoka's wrists regardless, and it managed to push Razor out of court, back and forth. If we look at physics, that's a lot of power, because I'm physics now. Yes. The strength of that kid is intense and growing, and while he needs to spend more time working on strategizing, if that strategy was his doing, Hisoka has to realize that Gon isn't far off matching or surpassing his own abilities. Sure, he can think of ways to balance things up, and we haven't seen necessarily Hisoka's full capabilities, but as far as the narrative of a repeatedly appearing Team Rocket type archetype goes, Hisoka's leaving that mold and becoming more of a teacher the way Bisky is. I know that he wanted to kill Gon when he reached his full potential, but he's done so much to protect Gon that I wonder whether he actually could do it when the time comes. It's in the same nature as becoming very close to your livestock, then not wanting to butcher them. How does the disconnect happen? When? That's something I'm excited to see if and when it occurs. Meanwhile, between Hisoka and Gon is Killua truly doing all the work to support the team. The brace and the cushion. Taking all that impact in the way he does, perfectly balancing Gon's raw power and Hisoka's cunning and sitting in the middle of it all. And yet Killua will not receive any of the accolade. Razor noticed it though, and I noticed it too. Especially since if Hisoka had decided in that moment to double cross them, Killua would still have been there. He would have seen Hisoka disappear and would still have stayed to support Gon. Metaphorically, it's a beautiful image. Gon focuses on one thing. Killua's Ambereddraws there watching Gon's back, and Hisoka's there to protect the potential until it's time. The combination of three powerful entities all balancing out their archetypes in one moment. Killua didn't miss that moment either, and didn't miss what Hisoka did for Gon. While he invited Hisoka to join out of suspicion, I can't imagine it was purely that. Seeing Hisoka do something for Gon, he probably realized that they have similar goals. Look after and help our young Super Saiyan achieve his goals, which is a hell of a combined motivation for two people that love this one boy. And we found out some information about Ging this episode too. He's as much a monster as Gon is. Gon gets his psychopathic tendencies from somewhere, and now we know it's his father, who gathers people from prisons and puts them in a game world to kill other hunters. Did he build the entire game for his son? If so, what was he intending to teach? What's the lesson Gon learns from this, beyond how to kill a bomber? He learns to treat the characters in the game with enough respect that he receives items from them. He learns to listen to in-game narrative, something Killua has ignored in order to understand the world. Something I think Killua's missing, and that even I missed until now, is that Ging wrote this game. Because he wrote it, he had a hand in creating all the narratives. Gon's intense focus on the story elements is probably a combination of actually enjoying game narrative, but also everything he learns from the narrative tells him something about his dad, which is kind of cool. Every action, every goal he needs to conquer in the game to beat it requires him to do something his dad put in his way to gauge his abilities as a human and as a hunter. If Gon finds his dad, he's worthy of him, which we always knew, but he's worthy of him as a person, not just as a hunter. And that's different. And finally, that he has the real patch of Shaw shows that Genthru simply doesn't think a little kid could be powerful enough to have a real card over a copy. Here we go again with the underestimating of little kids, our favourite trope of this entire series. It feels as though we're already nearing the climax of this arc. We're just in the build and it hasn't felt as intense this arc as it did last one, but I guess with the kids it ramps up much faster and doesn't get dark until a bit later. I guess it's time to plan to deal with both the game his dad wrote and the bomber that could touch them and kill them. I wonder if Sageras will be able to keep Genthru away from them, or if he'll just sidestep and come for them immediately and, get in the way of the plan, whatever that is. It'll be simple, probably. We'll see. And I guess we'll find out next time, because that's it from me. If you enjoyed this deep dive into motivation and intense psychological awkwardness, feel free to click here, here, and here. You can also click here and hang out on the Discord. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.